everybody, and welcome to another edition of T Watches a Scary Movie. My name is T, and of course, we are in scary movies. I appreciate y'all coming back for another rousing edition of the show. We have new episodes that go up every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and you can catch our new episodes here on YouTube at youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, that's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. That's where we upload the new episodes to. Yes, I know. This is another audio-only episode, but folks, we're getting closer. I'll be back on video before you know it. We're looking at Spiral being the episode where I will be back on video for y'all, all right? So when we talk about Spiral from the Book of Saw next month, that is when I'm looking to make a return. I will finally be back and have enough time to do that for y'all. So we're getting back to it. In the meantime, we're sticking with our audio-only episode, so nothing's wrong with your screens or anything like that right now. But if you subscribe to the YouTube page, you'll get alerted when new episodes are going up. As well, you can check out all of our other previous episodes that we have up and going for y'all too. And in addition to that, occasionally I'm going to put out some other videos for y'all as well. So it'll be very cool if you go and check those out. Give me some likes, give me some upvotes, all that kind of stuff there. I want to see y'all's comments on things I'm putting out there as well too. That's the YouTube page. But if you want to join us on our watch parties, you know, after we do the new episodes on Wednesday nights, we're going to watch a movie that's usually involved with what we talked about during the episode. And then once a week, we do our scary TV watch parties where we watch a few old school TV shows with a horror theme to them. Right now, we are watching Hannibal, Dexter, we're watching Black Mirror, Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show, and we're finishing up Spawn. Spawn actually only has a couple of episodes left, and once Spawn is done, we are going to add in the new Amazon horror show, Them. So Them is going to be joining the lineup here in just a few more weeks now. But we've been having a lot of fun. It's sad to see Spawn is almost done. That's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and the third season is absolutely the best. We just finished up an episode to where a vampire had to try to murder Spawn, and didn't go too well for her. But if you want to know when our watch parties are happening, you got to join the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/T Scary Movie. Again, facebook.com/groups/T Scary Movie. Y'all join up and you'll get the alerts of when our watch parties are happening. As well, we do a lot of daily discussions, which are a lot of fun too. And sometimes I put some other good things up there as well, including reviews and stuff like that. So sign up to our Facebook group so you can get alerted when all that stuff is happening. So tonight we are going to talk about the 2020 pandemic horror film Host. And we're going to get to that. We're definitely going to get to that. But I was trying to decide on what I wanted to talk about this week. And last week, we had just finished up talking about a few of the Saw movies. We had talked about Saw 1, 2, and 3, and a little bit about Spiral as well. And I have to admit, y'all, I am going back while we're watching these. So we just finished Saw 5 on a Sunday, I believe. And going back watching all these, it's really making me remember how much I actually enjoy this series. I think I had told myself for the longest time that I really didn't enjoy the majority of it. And going back and watching it and realizing just how much about this series I know, like all the twists I get, all the characters that are involved and where they pop up again, all that's making sense to me. Man, I really enjoy the Saw series a lot. And I am so excited for us to watch Saw 6 tonight. Yeah, after the show, not only are we going to be watching Host, but Host is so short that we're going to also just put Saw 6 right after that as well, too. So I'm excited to watch that with y'all. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to do so. And the new trailer for Spiral, man, this movie is looking really, really good. Props and kudos to Darren Lynn Bousman on Spiral, man, because a series that very likely should have just been left dead. I mean, Saw 7, which, we're going to get to obviously next week, but Saw 7, the final chapter was, hence the name, and like our old horror movies, was supposed to be the final entry in the series. It's not great, honestly, and the way that it ended left a lot to be desired, but it was enough to where you could say, all right, cool, I'm good with the series ending. We don't need another film. Leave it at that. Then we got Jigsaw not too long after Saw 7 released, and I don't know how well or how good that one did to really improve the reception of Saw the Final Chapter. But Spiral looks to be making up for a lot of it. We still don't know the ins and out of Spiral and how exactly it will connect to the old series. Obviously, somehow Jigsaw or one of Jigsaw's apprentice has to be involved in this story, but we don't know. Without spoiling things, we don't know if it's a prequel to some of these other films. We don't know if it's a sequel to Saw 7, honestly. We don't know a lot about this new movie, except that it looks really, really good, and Sam Jackson looks to be put in a trap, which, like I said, he's likely going to get the most gruesome trap in the film, and I'm fully believing that's what we're going to see happen to the guy. It makes sense. I have to feel he even asked for that too, honestly. But I'm stoked. Spiral looks really good. Definitely going to go and see it, and I'm going to be so excited to get back on camera to talk about that movie with y'all as well. But that's coming in a few weeks here. Instead, tonight, we got hosts to talk about. And I get that 2020 was a rough year for a lot of us, all right? That was just a bad year, and for a lot of us, that'll probably end up being the worst year of our lives, just because you have to think about it. I mean, I'm only 33, and I can't remember another year that went just as badly as 2020 did. Just so much off about it. And one of the things we really probably have to consider with 2020 is that a lot of us have probably talked about or at some point had the dream of working from home. And who wouldn't? I mean, not having to wake up early to get ready, to deal with traffic to work and then from work later on in the day, packing a lunch, all of those things are suddenly out the window. They're just gone, okay? But if it's like my situation, once that becomes everyday life, it's easy for it to kind of get boring or mundane, and even more so, it's easy to find the horror in it all. And by that, what I mean is that if your mind's a lot like mine and a lot of other people who love horror movies and stuff, you'll take everyday normal situations and think about how that could be scary. Think about how this could maybe work in a horror film. And it's easy when you're working alone from home for, 8 hours a day at that point. And especially in the last few months where we've been in winter. We're out of winter now, but, some days it's just very dark and gloomy and there's a lot of snow and everything like that. It's easy to put a lot of horror-related situations in your mind. But Zoom, the program Zoom, had a really, really big 2020. People were kind of forced at that point to embrace the idea of online work, online communication, and Zoom had a really big year for people to use it because Skype, for whatever reason, wasn't as big. Matter of fact, it was so funny. Working with Sean Linden, the writer and director of Hunter x Hunter, I had asked him if he was cool doing a Skype call. And it came out of my mouth so easily because even though I use Zoom a lot in 2020, for me, the standard bearer was still Skype. That's what everybody had been using prior to Zoom taking over in 2020. And we laughed about it because it sounded so old because everybody's using Zoom now. But Zoom had a really, really big year, and it kind of became the premier communication app for a lot of businesses and a lot of people. And I mean, hell, even SNL, when they were doing their SNL at home shows, they were doing a lot of sketches that were based around using Zoom. And we still get a lot of jokes like up in Canada. I know they had the issue recently to where somebody in the House of Reps or whatever there that they have was naked or changing during it. So there's still a lot of fun to be had with it. But Zoom, though, has honestly, it had a bit of its zeitgeist going last year, And Hollywood had to shut down due to COVID safety issues for the better part of the year. So filmmakers had to be a little bit more clever with how they were going to actually make TV shows and movies and the such. Writer and director Rob Savage managed to play an absolutely just savage, hence the name, an absolutely savage prank on a group of his friends during a Zoom call they were all on. I'm sure you all remember early part of 2020, once we all first started going into quarantine and stuff like that, doing a lot of like Zoom gatherings with your friends was very commonplace. Like, hey, drinks Friday on Zoom. Hey, game Saturday on Zoom. Stuff like that. I did a lot of times for the first few months as well. And it definitely was a lot of fun. But man, he did so well with this. And it reminded me of a joke that I think, Edgar Wright, I think, is the one that ended. No, it was Simon Pegg. It was Simon Pegg. I thought of Edgar Wright because of the Simon Pegg connection. But Simon Pegg played a joke on his friends years back using Twitter to where he was talking about hearing noises coming from his attic and everything and not knowing what it is. And then he kept posting like, oh, I'm going to go check it out, find out what's going on. And then finally started posting like in Latin or some shit like that. And it was so fun. It was so cool. It was a great, great prank for him to play. What Rob Savage instead did was he told his group of friends that he had been hearing a lot of noises coming from his attic, and he wanted to investigate what was going on with his friends because, you know, nothing's as scary if you have a group of friends with you, whether it's virtual or not. And I can't spoil the video itself. If you've seen it, you know exactly what happens. It's actually a really, really short video, but he played this prank on his friends who had no idea that this was something that he was setting up. And the video went viral. And due to the response from it, Rob Savage decided that he was going to apply the concept to a feature film. That he wanted to make a movie using, you know, the idea of it's a Zoom call, but that also that the horror is happening over to these friends over a Zoom call. And the difficulty involved was that the pandemic was in full force, all right? You couldn't film it traditionally because everybody has the quarantine and there's not a lot of people able to get together. Obviously, he could have done it, but that earlier on in the pandemic, it would have been a really, really bad look. Would not have been great for him. So instead, Savage decided that the way he was going to direct this film was have everybody kind of work as a mini director. So all the actors, he walked through having how to set up like their own shots, lighting, stunts, and then everybody had to take a practical effects course as well in order to set up like all the special effects of the film. And it's hard not to praise the hell out of Host, because even if it wasn't a pandemic movie, it would still be a great example of low-cost guerrilla filmmaking with great results. I mean, this is a film that, like, you look at it and you're like, man, like, this would be so simple to do. You just get all my friends on a Zoom call. We'll get a script together and everything. Maybe there's a little bit of ad-libbing involved and everything like that. And then all the effects we're going to do, we're not going to do a lot of, like, big budget special effects or anything. It's going to be a lot involving, like, you know, like fishing wire and, you know, magnets and stuff like that. You might think to yourself, man, that looks super easy. I can do that. No harm, no foul. But that would devalue what Savage and his cast has done here. Man, this movie is incredibly effective with what they were able to do with it. The majority of the cast of the film, which includes Haley Bishop, Gemma Moore, Emma Webb, and a lot of others, they were actually a part of the initial Zoom call that went viral, and they're basically playing fictionalized versions of yourself. And I feel that's always a really good idea with a film like this, to where, you know, it's supposed to kind of take place in reality. And by that, what I mean is, like, Friday the 13th is not supposed to be, like, taking place in reality, okay? It's like a heightened version of what real life is, basically. But Zoom Host is supposed to be taking place in the everyday world, okay? It's an everyday world. You know, nothing special is happening or anything like that, but a very unfortunate and terrible incident falls upon these friends. And the plot being so short and sweet, like the runtime, which, yeah, we got to talk about. The movie's only 56 minutes long. It's 56 minutes. That's less than an hour. That's less time than a number of TV shows that we've been watching that can't tell as good of a story in that amount of time. In only 56 minutes, The plot tells us about a group of friends who, while quarantining during the COVID-19 pandemic, decide that they're going to host a virtual seance through Zoom. And as you can imagine, it doesn't go too well. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's not a lot out there that actually scares me, with horror movies, that is. I mean, it takes a lot for a horror movie to actually scare me. Sure, can you gross me out? Yeah, that's not that hard to do at all. Bones breaking, flesh ripping and stuff like that. I don't do great with things like that, but they don't scare me. It just grosses me out, But I've also said that things that have to do with demonic possession or demonic hauntings, they absolutely freak me out. And that's part of my beliefs, the way I was raised. And just the fact of common sense, here's the thing. And I take it back again to slasher flicks and shit like that there. Do we have serial killers in the world? Absolutely. What is the honest to God chance that a serial killer is going to ever target you and your friends and it's going to play out like a horror movie? Slim to none. That is just not a thing at all. Like Dahmer, Bundy, Gacy, all these guys, it wasn't a horror movie, okay? What they did was quite horrible, but it wasn't a horror movie where, they're calling their victims and, they're setting them up and going from their friends and there's this big reveal surprise, it was me all along. That's not real life, okay? We're not playing a real life version of Scream, okay? And that's why serial killers don't really do that much for me. I know there's people out there that are obsessed with true crime and serial killers and everything that goes with it. It just doesn't do it because the fake story of serial killers in horror movies is so much more fantastical than what happens in real life, to where there's not much involved with it. Guys like the Zodiac and the Night Stalker, those are different stories. Charles Manson's a bit of a different story as well too, but just the simple idea of somebody going around and killing people really actually isn't that scary. But again, like I said, demonic possession and things like that do freak me the fuck out. And I'm not the only one with a mindset of, when you start for things like seances and things like that, someone's going to answer, okay? Someone's absolutely going to answer the invitation that you put out there. And if you don't believe it, why risk it? There are other things to get a thrill out of, all right? If you want to take the risk of dying, go skydive. All right. You can skydive in the middle of the day. It's nice and bright. And hey, you have a risk of your parachute doesn't work the way that it's supposed to actually work. And that's fine. That's a good thrill for you. But why would you risk the chance of doing a seance or something to where the media, pop culture has shown us that in the majority of the cases that somebody does this, it is never going to work out the way that they want it to actually work out. You're likely bringing a demon up or something there. It's going to murder you. It's going to murder anybody that's connected on this, on this seance. Why do that? And they don't take long getting into that in this film at all. And of course, our director, Savage, has to get things going quick because it's only 56 minutes. And the fact that we're watching a Zoom call, basically, it makes sense that we're not getting a lot of exposition. And I love that about it because think of films like The Exorcist, where we're dealing with demonic possession, or even like Evil Dead or whatever. We have to get a lot of exposition with that. We have to be explained how these possession works, what the rules are, things like that. And with Host, we're really only given a loose sense of what could possibly work to help these characters out. There's not a lot of world building or extreme story building, and that's actually really good for this movie because we don't need all of that. Simply put, you did a seance, you raised a demon, now you're fucked. And that's the idea behind Host. And it's so simple and it works so damn efficiently. Love that. And Savage has a harder job than normal building tension because the style of the movie doesn't allow him to use things like a score. And that's the entire purpose of a musical score or a soundtrack in a film. It's to trigger your emotions and get you feeling a certain way about what's happening on the screen. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what the majority of films out there are going to do. But in a film like this, to where it's supposed to be real life, we don't have the luxury of having a score to tell us how to feel. And that makes those movies even better, in my opinion, because then they have to rely on nothing else but what's happening on screen to get you to feel the way that they want you to feel from that. And outside of a handful of practical effects and like some of those like filters that you can get on Zoom and things like that as well. He builds the atmosphere throughout the whole film just utilizing his amazing cast, who all do such a good job. And it's no secret that I'm not a fan of the Paranormal Activity movies, but those, along with the Unfriended series, might be the most similar in regards to what you're in store for in this movie itself. Host manages not to be boring, and it keeps us on the edge of our seats. And it also gives a good explanation for what our group, our protagonists, are dealing with, so we can easily temper our expectations. Paranormal Activity sucked at that, all right? The entire film, and majority of these films, we're under the impression that we're going to be seeing this giant, like, hooven, like, what do you call it? It has hooves for feet, you know? It has, like, this big-ass muscular, demonic-looking body and this crazy, scary face and things like that. We're led to believe we're going to be seeing all these kinds of things throughout these films, and we don't really get any of that, all right? And they play around with it because they make you think at some point maybe you will see that shit. And no, you're not going to see any of that. Host makes it very clear that's not what's happening, all right? And I can't talk more about it without giving away certain plot details here, because it is definitely just straight up said. But I love the idea that they temper our expectations very quickly about what we're going to see and what could possibly happen, so we don't have like these high hopes here. We're not putting everything up on a pedestal only to be let down, okay? Now, I didn't know what to expect with this movie. I heard a lot of great things about it when it first came out last summer, and I definitely signed up for Shudder 200% just because of this movie. Because when Shudder launched, there wasn't exactly a lot available on it, and over the years, they've added so much to it. You know, they've gotten Creepshow, The Last Drive-In. They've gotten a few exclusive movies on it as well, too. They're doing much better than what they previously were, but I really didn't know what to expect. And when I first watched it, it was late at night. All the lights are off. And let me tell you, because I've also watched this in the middle of the day, this is a very effective scary movie no matter when you're deciding to watch it. Yeah, it's even scarier if you're watching at night or if you're working a job that involves making or taking video calls all days like mine does. But goddamn, this is an effective movie. And the fact that it's such a self-contained story means you don't have to worry about sequels, prequels, understanding plot points from other films like the Paranormal Activity films. I don't like them, but there's a lot of backstory across those films like Saw. And you typically have to see the previous film to understand the current one. So I'm glad that Host didn't have any issues like that. We can just focus on our 56 minutes of bliss, basically. It's a simple approach. Your Zoom call seance conjured something evil. Can you stop it and escape with your life? I am so excited to watch this movie with all of y'all tonight. And I'm just as excited over the fact that Rob Savage is actually making another horror film with pretty much the exact same cast, and it's going to be an interactive movie. If you remember, back in the early to mid-90s, we had all these old FMV or full motion video games. These are games like Night Trap, basically, to where if you never had the pleasure of playing Night Trap, they basically shot a movie with a bunch of alternate scenes, and then the player... And if you played it then, it was on Sega CD. If you're playing it now, it's on a lot of modern consoles. You can basically activate, like the story is that these girls are having a sleepover party, and suddenly these creatures are all trying to like invade this sleepover party that they're happening, and you as the player can control traps in this house to stop these bad guys, or in some cases even stop the good guys too. It's clear that Rob Savage has such an affinity for horror, and not just for horror, but for a lot of the concepts and tropes that a lot of deep fans are really gonna get with and love so much. This guy loves the genre. That's very clear. And I'm so excited to see what else he has in store for us. Check Host out. It is free on Shudder right now. There's also a very awesome UK release for the film that got done as well too. Wish I could get it here, but it doesn't work on American players, and that really does suck, but that's all right. Yeah, I'm so excited to watch that with y'all tonight. We're going to watch Saw 6 right after that. And I'm even going to show the original viral video before we watch Host as well. So get over to the Facebook group so you can get the link for our watch party. But that is going to do it for us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have been fantastic, and I love the fact that you tuned in to talk a little scary movies with me here. Next week, we got some more great fun stuff for us, and keep in mind, we're going to be doing our Scary TV watch party tomorrow. It's happening on Thursday this week on the 22nd. So, make sure to tune in. I'm excited to spend some time with y'all there. And I'm T. We've been talking scary movies. Y'all stay scared.